Hi, I'm Kylie. My parents threw a $50,000 red carpet gala for my sister's birthday. Champagne fountains, paparazzi backdrop, designer gowns. Me? I found out from Instagram. I wasn't even invited. But that wasn't the worst part. It was the quiet erasure. How they rewrote family history, turned my childhood bedroom into a gym, forged my signature to cut me from the will, and when I finally spoke up, they called me dramatic. What happens when your own family decides you're the problem? Simply because you stop disappearing? I was in bed, barely awake, when the first image hit my phone. Laureen, my younger sister, draped in a gold sequin dress, standing beneath a giant balloon arch that read, 30 and thriving. Her makeup was professionally done, hair curled just right. The caption read, "Celebrating our golden girl in golden style." I blinked once, then again. It wasn't the dress. It wasn't the custom backdrop or the champagne towers or the polished caption my mom had clearly crafted. It was the fact that I had no idea it was happening. None. Not a single word had been said to me. As I scrolled through the tagged photos, it got worse. Red carpet, string quartet, gourmet catering, a full photo booth with customized props. My mother clinked flutes with Laureen in one clip and laughed like she hadn't ignored 3 of my texts the week before. The caption underneath one post read, "Some daughters deserve the world." I didn't like it. I didn't comment. I didn't even send it to anyone. I just watched the clips again and again, my stomach tightening. I wanted to be unaffected. I wanted to be above it. But there was no version of this that didn't sting. It wasn't the gala itself. It was the message beneath it. You were never even considered. That night, I tried to sleep, but the images looped in my head like a reel that wouldn't shut off. Every time I blinked, it was Laureen laughing over fondue with my parents, her champagne flute raised high. "To being unforgettable," she toasted in one video. The word unforgettable hung in my brain like a mosquito I couldn't swat. 2 weeks later, it was my birthday. I didn't expect much. Still, I cleared the day, didn't plan anything with friends, didn't schedule any meetings. I guess a part of me was hoping they had something up their sleeve, even just dinner or a thoughtful note. At noon, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "If you're free, stop by the house today." That was it. No happy birthday, no emoji, no hint of celebration, just logistics. I showed up around 2:30 p.m., half hoping there was a surprise hiding behind the garage door. But when I walked in, Laureen was on the couch scrolling through her phone, legs tucked under her like it was any other Thursday. My dad was out back mowing the lawn. My mom was in the kitchen humming. "Oh, hey," she said when she saw me. "You made it." "I figured you wanted me to," I replied, standing awkwardly in the doorway. She nodded, wiped her hands on a dish towel, and opened the fridge. "I picked up a cupcake for you," she said, placing a single chocolate cupcake on the counter. Store-bought, still in the plastic container, no candle. Then she handed me a card, white envelope, already opened. Inside was a thick piece of cardstock that read in shiny gold letters, "Maybe next year." There was no message, not even her signature. I gave a soft laugh, not from humor but disbelief. "That's it?" My mom looked at me like I'd insulted her cooking. "You're 33, Kylie. What did you expect? A pony and streamers? You've always been so dramatic." Laureen didn't even look up from her phone. I stood there, card limp in my hand, and for the first time I felt something solid crack inside me. Not a dramatic collapse, more like the final click in a long sequence of quiet betrayals. Something irreversible. It wasn't the cupcake. It wasn't even the card. It was the fact that they looked at me like I was the problem, for noticing. My mother leaned back against the counter. "You've never liked attention anyway. I didn't think it mattered." I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her how she could host a $50,000 event with a dress code and media wall for my sister, then hand me a $2 cupcake and act like I was the difficult one. But I didn't scream. I didn't explain. I just said, "Thanks," and I left. Not angrily, not loudly, just quietly, like a door closing with a soft click that no one hears until it's too late. I got into my car. My hands shook a little as I placed the cupcake on the passenger seat. Then I opened my travel app and booked a flight to Lisbon. One way. I'd been saving for a trip for years, waiting for a sign. That moment, cupcake sweating in the Louisiana heat, was the clearest one I'd ever gotten. That night I packed. I folded clothes into neat stacks, zipped them into my suitcase like I'd done it 100 times. My phone buzzed once, my dad, probably asking where I'd gone. I let it ring. I didn't need another text explaining how I was taking things too personally. I didn't need my sister's smug silence or my mother's defensiveness. What I needed was distance, and Lisbon was about as far as I could go without orbiting the planet. Before I went to bed, I placed the cupcake in the trash and lit a candle, not for celebration, but for clarity. I didn't sleep much, but when the sun rose, casting light across my bedroom floor, I felt weightless, not happy, not healed, but finally light. The Lisbon sun had barely begun to rise when I found myself sitting upright in seat 34A, the gentle hum of the plane doing little to soothe the churn in my chest. The cabin lights were dimmed, passengers around me lulled into sleep or distracted by glowing screens. I, on the other hand, was staring at the screen of my phone, one bar of Wi-Fi flickering like it couldn't decide if it wanted to connect me to the world or leave me in peace. That's when I saw it. A flagged message from 2018 sat at the top of my inbox like it had been waiting for this exact moment. The subject line read, "Save this." I vaguely remembered sending it to myself but couldn't recall what it was. I tapped. One line appeared above a small attachment. "Never forget this recording, one day it'll explain everything." I hesitated, then slid my headphones on and hit play. The voice was unmistakable, my mother's. Casual, confident, unaware she was being recorded. "She'll never be like Lorene," she said, her tone light, as if discussing the weather. "Kylie's always been forgettable, sensitive. She takes things so personally." There was a pause, then laughter, not just hers, but a second voice, a family friend. "Well, you need one stable daughter and one star, right?" he joked. My mother responded without skipping a beat. "Exactly. Lorene was born to shine. Kylie was born to hold the flashlight." I didn't feel anger. Not at first. Just silence. Heavy, deep, and devastating. I looked out the window, the early light casting gold across the clouds as we cruised above the Atlantic. I didn't cry. I didn't even move. But inside, something split. Not a clean break. More like the slow, quiet peel of wallpaper left too long under damp air. That recording wasn't a surprise. Not really. It was confirmation. A voice memo for the parts of me that still questioned my own pain. When the plane landed, I barely noticed the bump of wheels against tarmac. The air in Lisbon was cool and smelled faintly of sea and pastry. The taxi driver smiled and asked where I was from. I said, "Louisiana," but it felt like I was talking about another life. The hotel was tucked between two pink buildings, paint peeling just enough to give it charm. My room had a tiny balcony and creaky floors. I set my suitcase down, exhaled, and for a second almost believed I was starting fresh. But then I opened the folder of mail my neighbor had forwarded, the stack I almost left behind. Most were boring, catalogs, utility letters, junk. But one thick envelope stood out, cream cardstock, embossed, a return address I knew too well. I opened it slowly. My hands weren't shaking, they were just tired. It was an invitation, a formal one. "You are cordially invited to celebrate Lorene's 30th birthday gala, dated 5 weeks ago, sent to my old apartment." I hadn't lived there in over a year. I checked the postmark. Sent 10 days after I'd texted my mother my updated address. Sent 10 days after I watched her read it, blue check and all. I stared at the envelope for a long time, then finally typed a message to her. "Did you send this to my old place on purpose?" No reply. A few minutes later, I remembered something. Weeks ago, Lorene had come across my updated contact info while scrolling through the family spreadsheet on her laptop during a holiday planning call. I remembered the way she had paused and smirked. "Oh, you moved?" she'd said, not bothering to look up. Didn't seem important. It wasn't an oversight. It was a strategy. That night, I unpacked slowly. The soft rustle of clothing hitting drawers was the only sound in the room. Lisbon lit up outside my window, but I didn't step out. I sat at the desk and opened my journal, wrote 2 sentences. "This was never about forgetting me. It was about erasing me. quietly, efficiently. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I called my father. He picked up on the third ring. "Kylie," he said, sounding tired, like the call itself was a burden. "You're in Portugal?" "Yes." There was silence on the line, then he added, "Look, don't stir things up. What's done is done. Let it go. Let it go." I imagined saying that to someone who'd been bruised slowly, consistently, carefully, without ever being hit. But I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just ended the call. I walked out to the balcony. The night was mild. Somewhere in the distance, a woman was singing in Portuguese, soft and soulful. I looked up at the stars and said quietly, to no one in particular, "No, it just started." The next morning in Lisbon, I opened my laptop to check email before heading downstairs for breakfast. I wasn't expecting anything urgent. Maybe a receipt, a newsletter I'd forgotten to unsubscribe from. But one subject line stopped me cold. "Urgent, Kylie. Please confirm you're safe." It was from my company's HR department. I blinked. My coffee cooled beside me, untouched. I opened the message. "Hi, Kylie. We received a call yesterday from someone identifying as your mother. She expressed concern that you had left suddenly and might be in danger. She insisted it was an emergency and said we should let you know the family was worried. Please confirm all is well." I stared at the screen, jaw locked. I hadn't given her my work contact. She had no reason, no right. That was a boundary I'd never expected her to cross. I clicked over to my voicemail, and sure enough, her voice filled my ears, familiar, polished, and sharp beneath the surface. "Hi, honey. Just calling because you can't just vanish like this. You scared your father. You scared Lorene. It's not fair to us. I called your office because you didn't respond to me. You can't expect people not to worry when you make choices like this." Choices like this. As if protecting my peace was a crime against family unity. I didn't call her back. Instead, I opened my social media apps, already dreading what I'd find. My instincts were right. On Lorene's Gala post, still public, still glowing, there was a comment from Megan, an old friend from high school. "Where was Kylie? She's always been so delicate." Delicate. Right below that, Megan had replied to someone else. "Lorene's always been more outgoing, more presentable." I stared at those words like they were a painting meant to be studied. Then I clicked the 3 dots, scrolled, and deactivated my Facebook. Later that afternoon, as the Lisbon streets pulsed with sun, I received a short email from Janelle, a journalist I used to intern with years ago. "Hey, off the record, there's chatter. Your family's telling people you ghosted them. If you want to clarify anything publicly, I'll help you do it right." So the narrative had already begun, without me. The story wasn't just about what I did, it was about who got to say why I did it. That evening, I sat by the hotel window, trying to write. I couldn't. My thoughts kept circling back to home, or what used to be home. Then my phone buzzed, a message from Brenda, my cousin. Just a photo, no caption. I tapped to enlarge it. My old bedroom, except it wasn't mine anymore. The lavender walls were now gray. My bookshelf had been cleared, my desk gone. A treadmill stood in its place, flanked by 2 sets of dumbbells. On the wall, right where I once taped up quotes from Maya Angelou and post-it notes filled with college vocabulary, was a shiny new decal. "Progress begins when we stop clinging to the past." I swallowed hard. That room had been more than walls and furniture. It was the space where I taught myself how to file taxes, where I stayed up through heartbreak, where I rewrote my resume after getting laid off. It was the only place in that house where I ever felt remotely mine. And now, just like that, it was wiped clean, not converted, not repurposed, erased. I typed out a message to my mother. I saw the room, message received, but I didn't send it. I deleted it. What would be the point? She wouldn't see what I needed her to see. Instead, I opened my journal. They don't want me to call, they want me to crawl. That line echoed in my mind longer than I expected. So I opened another file on my computer, one I'd created months ago and never touched. It was called Lisbon Notes. Inside was a blank document. No formatting, no title page. Just a single line of text I'd written long ago but never expanded. This isn't the story they told. It's the one they tried to bury. That night, I began outlining chapters. Not out of revenge, not to embarrass them, but because stories rot in silence, and mine had been sitting in the dark long enough. The next morning arrived quiet and pale, the Lisbon sky hanging low with a slow-moving fog. I had barely touched my coffee when an email slid into my inbox from Paula, an editor friend I'd worked with back in New York. Her subject line read, "Hey, are you okay?" Inside, just a few lines. "I don't want to step on anything private, but I've heard you're overseas dealing with some kind of breakdown." 2 emails came through quoting your sister. Very polished, very concerned. Something about you being unwell and acting impulsively. If this is sabotage, say the word. Sabotage. That word sat differently now. Heavier, sharper. I minimized the email and pulled up Instagram. Loreen's newest post had blown up overnight. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments. The caption read, "Family isn't about who vanishes when things get hard. It's about who stays and helps rebuild." In the photo, she was hugging my mother, both wearing soft pastels, glowing under perfect lighting. Behind them, I noticed something subtle but searing. My diploma, which had once hung on the wall near the staircase, was gone. I didn't cry, but something inside me tightened, like laces pulling through too many eyelets. I felt cinched in my own body, like they were tightening the version of the story they wanted people to believe. I closed the app and tossed my phone onto the bed, trying to breathe. But minutes later, curiosity pulled me back. I opened TikTok and typed in her name. The first thing that came up was a video with over 60,000 views. Loreen sat at a white vanity, blending foundation, hair in rollers, smiling at her reflection as upbeat music played in the background. Then she spoke. "You know," she said, laughing softly, "when your sibling can't even handle a cupcake without spiraling, it might be time they ask if they're really grown." The comments scrolled faster than I could read. "Drag her, sis." "She's so dramatic, LOL." "Girl, you're better off without that energy." I watched it again. The clip was clearly trimmed, designed to provoke, to feed the algorithm, to hand the audience something digestible. Never mind that it rewrote everything I'd been through in one glib swipe. My story was now a meme. That afternoon, I tried to work. I returned emails. I edited a piece for a Lisbon food blog about the city's best hidden cafes, but the sentences ran together, the images blurred. Everything I typed felt dishonest, like pretending to be focused while your house is on fire. That evening, I checked the email thread with a Portuguese publisher I'd been corresponding with. They'd loved the idea of Lisbon notes, but something had shifted. Their latest reply was clipped. "At this moment, we are unable to proceed due to concerns about potential defamation. We've received 2 messages from a Gmail account warning of legal consequences should we publish." I froze. I asked to see the warnings. They forwarded one. It was brief, anonymous, but familiar. "This story is a violation of privacy. The family does not consent. Proceeding could result in legal action." The recovery phone number on the Gmail account ended in 216. That was a Louisiana area code. I knew exactly who it belonged to. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I opened a blank Word document and titled it, "A Family's Favorite Lie." Then I wrote, "When you stay silent too long, someone else starts telling your story for you." I didn't rage post. I didn't drag anyone. I didn't at my sister. Instead, I opened Instagram, uploaded a photo of my Lisbon apartment bathed in morning light, and added a caption. No tags, no hashtags, just words. I didn't run. I chose peace. And peace sometimes means walking away from noise disguised as love. It wasn't emotional. It was measured, surgical, like someone setting a bone after too many years of it healing wrong. Within an hour, the likes rolled in. Comments followed, some from old friends, some from strangers, some from people I hadn't heard from in years. Finally, someone said it. "I feel this in my bones." "Thank you for this." I didn't respond. I just read, and let the truth sit there. For years, I kept my voice boxed in, afraid to upset anyone, afraid to be called too much, too sensitive, too dramatic. Now they couldn't shut it off. By the time the sun dipped low over the tiled rooftops of Lisbon, my post had taken on a life of its own. I wasn't refreshing the screen obsessively, but the notifications came like waves, rolling in without pause. A few were cruel, predictable. But most, they were something else. Something I hadn't expected. Brenda messaged me first. "Finally, you said it." She followed it up with a screenshot of a Facebook comment thread already spiraling into a debate about whether I had snapped or spoken up. Then came an email from my old high school English teacher, Mr. Platt. We hadn't spoken since I graduated, but he wrote, "I always wondered why your parents never came to open house. You were the top of the class, Kylie. I'm glad you're finding your voice." More messages followed, college classmates, distant cousins. One from a coworker in New York who simply wrote, "That post. Phew, respect." I didn't reply to any of them. I wasn't here to win a popularity contest. This wasn't about applause. I had nothing to prove anymore, not to anyone. The version of me that needed validation had been boxed up with the cupcake I left behind. Later that evening, Brenda messaged again. "I need to show you something." She sent me a video file. It started shaky, handheld, probably filmed on a phone by someone who wasn't supposed to be recording. The scene, the night before the gala, Lorene in a glittering robe, sipping from a wine glass while fussing with a seating chart. She looked up at our mom and said, casual as ever, "Let's just not invite Kylie. She throws off the vibe." Our mom didn't hesitate. She laughed, an easy, practiced laugh, and answered, "She wouldn't come anyway. She doesn't belong in pictures like these." I paused the video. I stared at the screen so long it dimmed and went dark. My reflection blinked back at me, blank but boiling just beneath the skin. Brenda's message pinged right after. Should I leak it? I didn't hesitate. Already did. I posted it to my Instagram story. No caption, no context, just the truth, playing out in grainy pixels for anyone who ever doubted. An hour later, the email started again. This time, one stood out. Formal, cold, a legal notice. "This is a courtesy notice regarding your possible defamation of character. Our client is prepared to take legal action should the false and defamatory statements continue." Attached was a PDF, a document that claimed I had willingly forfeited my right to any family inheritance. It even had a signature at the bottom, my name scrawled in a shaky hand that didn't resemble mine at all. I leaned back in my chair, letting the absurdity of it settle. They weren't just offended now. They were threatened. And when people like them feel threatened, they try to intimidate. But they forgot something. I don't scare easy anymore. I called the law firm directly. The receptionist hesitated when I gave my name, then transferred me to a junior associate. He sounded younger than me, nervous. "Hi, this is Kylie. Yes, the one you emailed. I'm just calling to let you know that you can't defame someone by quoting them directly. That video? It's not commentary, it's evidence." He stammered, tried to redirect, but I didn't give him room. "Also," I added, "the signature on that form? Fake. I'll be sending a scanned copy of my actual signature for comparison. Don't send me threats again. Send me apologies." I hung up, took a deep breath, and opened my laptop. I sent the real signature to the firm. Then I called Daniela, a lawyer friend I'd met here in Lisbon. She used to practice family law in Boston. I told her everything. Every twist, every lie, every legal move they were trying to make. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, "This isn't about legality. It's about control. Let's take that from them." That night, I posted again. This time, not just a photo, not just a caption, but a quote from my own journal. "If defending myself ruins your lies, maybe you should have built them better." I hit post. Then I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of red wine. I wasn't burning bridges. I was building walls, strong, necessary, and finally mine. By morning, the air in my Lisbon apartment was thick with a strange kind of quiet. Not peaceful, not tense, just charged, like a storm was circling, deciding where to land. I poured coffee with a steady hand but a racing mind. I'd drawn a line, and for the first time in years, I hadn't erased it. By noon, the ripple effects had found their way back to me. Brenda forwarded a screenshot of a Facebook post from my cousin Deanna, the kind who posts inspirational quotes between gossip-laced rants. Some people air their trauma when they could have just handled it privately. There's always two sides. Below it, Aunt Lydia commented with a Bible verse about forgiveness. Classic. But what stopped me wasn't them. It was another message from my cousin Alex, the one who used to share a Nintendo with me during summer visits. We always knew something was off. We just didn't say anything. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to reply to that, so I didn't. I just screenshotted everything, like I was preserving pieces of a puzzle someone had tried to scatter. By early evening, I had just returned from a short walk by the Alfama district when a voice memo landed in my inbox. The sender, Aunt Cynthia, my mom's younger sister. We hadn't spoken in years. Her voice cracked a little but stayed firm. I've been quiet too long. Lorene's in control of the family accounts now. Your mom let her take over everything after your dad's surgery last fall. I don't agree with it, but I didn't know how to speak up. Attached were images, screenshots of account logins, money transfers, one to Lorene labeled Birthday Coordination Event Vendor, another titled Business Fund Withdrawal L Permission Given. The amounts weren't small. It hit me like a cold slap. They hadn't just rewritten me emotionally, they'd erased me financially too, quietly, systematically, like I'd never mattered. That night, I found myself Googling my own name just to see what the world had turned me into. What I saw made my stomach twist. A Reddit thread. Anyone else know Kylie from Baton Rouge? Weird story. TikTok's using my name as a trending hashtag. #Cupcake Girl Gone Rogue. Mental breakdown or main character moment. And a YouTube video, 30,000 views and climbing. She ran off and played victim? My face was the thumbnail. My name in bold. My story twisted into someone else's spectacle. I didn't cry, but the grief showed up in other ways. Tight shoulders, clenched jaw, a hollow ache in my ribs. The final gut punch came from a call I'd been expecting but hoping to avoid. Kylie, Paula, my Lisbon publisher, said gently, "We're getting emails, concerned inquiries, people asking if this memoir is revenge disguised as art. Is it safe for us to move forward?" I sat down at the window, the street below glowing orange in the setting sun. "It's not revenge," I said. "It's reclamation." Silence on the other end. Then Paula said, "Then let's publish it. In your name. No ghosts, no filters." The next morning, I met Paula in person for the first time since this all began. She brought her laptop. I brought the screenshots from Aunt Cynthia and a small USB with every legal document they'd tried to use against me. We ordered coffee and didn't speak about feelings, just facts. By noon, we had a plan. By dusk, I uploaded something new. A simple post. A cover mock-up of my memoir, the title in white serif against a deep maroon background. The subtitle, What They Buried. And beneath it, a quote. "Sometimes survival looks like silence. Other times it looks like print." I turned off comments this time. I wasn't inviting debate. I was issuing a declaration. They took my name. Now I was putting it back where it belonged. On the cover. The day after I announced the book cover, I sat by the window with my coffee, Lisbon still asleep outside. My inbox had quieted for the first time in weeks. It was the kind of silence that didn't feel like an absence, but a pause before the next move. And it came, not from a critic or troll, but from the one person who always knew how to hit the bruise and still pretend they hadn't touched me at all. Lorene's message popped up on my phone mid-sip. No greeting, no context. Just, "Hope the attention was worth it. We're dealing with the fallout now. Good job." Attached was a screenshot. Our mother in tears, caught mid-sob, posted by our cousin Rachel. Her caption read, "This is what public shaming does to families. Pray for us." I stared at it for a full minute, then whispered, "You posted her crying. I lived her silence." I didn't reply. I didn't owe her my energy. Later that day, Brenda forwarded me a screenshot from a group family text thread I hadn't known still existed. The kind they all use to share prayer requests and potluck reminders. This one said, "We're praying for Kylie to come back home. She's not well. Something's wrong." My name was being used like a missing person report. At the same time, Paula called. "The contract's finalized," she said. "We're locked in. Launch is set for spring." I exhaled, but Paula didn't stop there. "We'll need an excerpt to release. Something that's not just strong, but quiet. Dangerous. Something no one can twist." I knew what she meant. I just didn't know if I was ready. And then Brenda sent me something I didn't expect. A photo of a folded piece of paper. Torn edges. crumpled slightly, written in loopy teenage handwriting. "I found this in the attic. You must have written it before college." It was a letter. My letter. One I didn't remember writing but couldn't deny was mine, addressed to no one, just words poured out at 15. "I'm sorry I'm not like Lorene. I don't know how to sparkle. I just want someone to ask me how I feel before telling me who I am." It gutted me. That night, I took the paper with me to the studio where I'd been recording the audiobook version of the memoir. Paula met me there. She sat behind the glass, headphones on, while I stood at the mic with the letter in my hand. I cleared my throat and began to read. By the second paragraph, my voice cracked. I paused. Paula didn't say a word. I kept reading. "And if I ever leave, I don't want anyone to ask why. I want someone to remember I was here." That I tried. I ended the session without any edits. No filters, no re-records, just the raw sound of a girl who had been begging, for years, to be seen. The next morning, I posted the excerpt on Instagram. No dramatic intro, no hashtags, just a still image of the letter and a caption. "This isn't revenge, this is a record." The reaction was immediate. Some people apologized, some got defensive, some blamed me for airing family pain like dirty laundry. Lorene, of course, responded. Another vague story post with a soft filter, mascara-streaked cheeks, and a Bible verse about betrayal. The comments flooded in. "You're the strong one. Family is complicated, we see you. Protect your peace, queen." But this time, something shifted. Brenda texted. Even Aunt Sylvia said, "I think Kylie was right." That's new. I didn't celebrate. I didn't screenshot. I didn't react. I just sat in the moment, equal parts anger and relief. It wasn't vindication I wanted. It was accuracy. This time, I wasn't the one telling the story alone. They were finally listening. The morning sunlight spilled into my Lisbon apartment like nothing had happened. But the internet said otherwise. I was sipping coffee when I got the notification. A YouTube link, sent by 3 different people, all with the same subject line. "Have you seen this?" The video title hit me like a slap. "Kylie lied. The victim's story debunked." The thumbnail was a freeze frame of me blinking during an old interview, mouth slightly open, caught mid-thought. The kind of image people use when they want you to look foolish without saying a word. I clicked. A man's voice narrated over grainy clips pulled from my social media, spliced together to make me look unhinged. "She ran off to Europe because she couldn't handle her family calling her out," he said. The footage shifted to a poorly cropped screen recording of my journal quote from weeks ago. "If defending myself ruins your lies, maybe you should have built them better," paired with ominous music and cherry-picked DMs from anonymous sources, implying I fabricated it all for attention. And then, as if that wasn't enough, they looped a distorted version of the Gala video again, cutting just before Lorene's comment about me not belonging in photos. The video had 67,000 views in under 4 hours. I stared at the screen, not blinking. I felt like I was watching someone peel back my skin and call it costume. I closed the laptop. Later that afternoon, Brenda called. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't offer platitudes. She just said, "I'm handling it." And she did. An hour later, she posted the full, unedited clip of the Gala prep to her profile. No captions, no cuts, just raw truth. You could hear Lorene saying it clearly. "Let's just not invite Kylie. It ruins the energy." And then my mother's laugh. "She wouldn't come anyway. She doesn't belong in pictures." The internet turned again. Aunt Cynthia followed up with a joint statement. Clear, direct, aligned with my timeline. She included screenshots of messages between her and my mom, verifying what I'd been saying all along. And then came the Lisbon publisher's post. "This work is based on documented first-hand testimony and verified communications. We stand behind Kylie's story." By nightfall, the hashtag #KylieExposed had vanished from trending. The original video had been flagged for misinformation. And for the first time, it felt like the fire wasn't at my feet, it was behind me. I sat on my bed, staring at my screen, wondering if I should say something. Make a final statement. Instead, I opened Instagram and posted an image of an old notebook. Torn edges. Coffee stain in the corner. My caption, "If I'm dramatic, it's because I finally stopped disappearing." No tags, no names, just the words. That night, a new message buzzed through. My mother. You got what you wanted. You win. No greeting, no punctuation, just that. I didn't reply. I blocked the number. The next morning, I took a long walk along the riverside. The breeze was crisp, gentle. I passed a woman pushing her daughter on a swing, the two of them laughing, big, unfiltered laughter that made other people smile, just listening. I stood still for a moment and whispered, "This is what it's supposed to feel like." Not performance, not defense, just peace. Then, as I turned the corner near the old bookstore I'd come to love, I saw it. My book cover, real, printed, sitting in the display window. Just one copy, propped up on a stand. I didn't cry, I didn't rush in, I just stood there and let it settle into my bones. This wasn't about them anymore. For the first time, I was proud, and I didn't need anyone's permission to feel it. The next few weeks passed like honey, slow, sticky, warm. Each day in Lisbon felt less like an escape and more like a choice I had finally allowed myself to make. My apartment in the Alfama district sat at the corner of a narrow, sloped street that echoed with the clang of ceramic coffee cups and soft fado music. I didn't need much, just a window with light, a desk that didn't wobble, and a kettle that whistled when it boiled. I worked part-time editing travel articles for a boutique magazine that catered to English-speaking tourists. The work wasn't flashy, but it gave me structure, and something to do with my words that didn't always come wrapped in memory. In the afternoons, I'd take slow walks through the local market. I learned the names of fruits I'd never eaten back home. I burned 3 pots of feijoada before finally getting it right. I joined a writing group that met every Thursday evening in a bookstore basement that smelled like paperbacks and fresh mint tea. We talked about tone, about character arcs, about how the real work of writing was just surviving your own voice. And then one day, while passing a corner bakery I'd wandered into a few times before, the woman behind the counter waved. "Bom dia, Kylie!" My name rolled off her tongue like it belonged there. I paused, blinking. She didn't know anything about Baton Rouge. She'd never met my mother, never seen Lorene's red carpet photos or heard whispers about family inheritances and fake signatures. But she knew me, and that small sweet moment, being seen without the weight of history, made my throat tighten. Some days, the past still knocked. I'd get emails forwarded from Brenda, usually from relatives trying to test the water. "Just wondering how you're doing. Your mom mentioned you the other day. She's processing." I didn't reply, but I didn't delete them either. Some nights I'd light a candle and reread old letters I'd written but never sent. Some were sharp, some were sad. Most ended the same way. Maybe one day this will make sense. The ache wasn't gone. It had just changed shape. Like scar tissue you forget about until the weather shifts, and there it is, tight and tender. April 5th came again. I woke up to golden light stretching across my sheets, and for once, it didn't feel like an ambush. I got dressed slowly, pulled on a soft blue sweater, and walked 3 blocks to a cafe I'd only just discovered the week before. They had cakes that looked like something out of a storybook. Too colorful, too sugary, too much. And I loved it. I picked the biggest cupcake in the case, pink icing, rainbow sprinkles, a tiny edible flower on top. The owner rang me up and asked if I needed a bag. I shook my head. I wanted to carry it. At a nearby table I sat down, pulled a blank card from my purse and wrote, "To the girl who waited too long for someone else to celebrate her." I placed it next to the cupcake, lit a candle, and watched the flame dance. "This year," I whispered, "you didn't need them. No photos, no posts, just presents." That afternoon, a box arrived from my publisher. Inside, the first printed copy of my book. There was a handwritten note from Paula taped to the inside cover. "You made space. Now let others find theirs too." I flipped to the dedication page, for the kids with cupcakes and cards who kept waiting for next year. I placed the book on my tiny balcony table and lit another candle. Nearby, I'd hung Brenda's framed letter, the one she found from when I was 15. For years, I'd waited for someone to say it for me, to fight for me, to choose me. Now I understood. Some years, you wait for someone to show up with a cake. This year, I baked my own peace. Sometimes healing doesn't arrive in the form of an apology. Sometimes it arrives in the stillness that follows after you finally stop waiting for one. After all the pleading, the explaining, the hoping that someone might see your pain the way you do, what's left is silence. And in that silence, something surprising begins to grow. Space. Space to breathe, space to feel without judgment, space to rebuild yourself piece by piece without needing someone else to validate your worth. If there's one hard-earned truth I've taken from all of this, it's that peace isn't something you stumble upon. It's not gifted. It's built, slowly, deliberately, brick by brick. Sometimes with boundaries that shake people, sometimes with the kind of courage that feels like fear at first, and sometimes it's built by making one of the most difficult decisions of all, choosing yourself, especially when no one else does. Family isn't always safe. Love isn't always balanced. And the hardest lesson of all, closure doesn't always come in a neat package with answers and mutual understanding. Often it doesn't come from them. It comes from you. From the moment you stop chasing clarity from someone who refuses to give it. From the moment you realize that maybe you don't need their explanation to move on. Maybe what you really need is your own permission to let go. So, to the ones who feel like ghosts in their own homes, to those who were told they were too much for feeling what others were too afraid to face, you're not overreacting. You're not broken. You're just no longer silent. And that's not a flaw. That's growth. That's the beginning of you stepping into your voice again. It's not easy. Some days it still stings. Some nights the silence is louder than the shouting used to be. But in that silence, something else lives too. Possibility. The possibility of rebuilding not just your life, but your identity outside of the pain. So I want to ask you, from one human to another, have you ever had to walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself? Or maybe you're still standing in that heavy silence, wondering if it's worth it, wondering if you made the right call, or if you're just lost. If that's you, I have one question. What's the one thing you've done this year just for you, even if it was small, that made you feel whole? Even for a moment. Share it in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, or just drop a 1 if this story landed somewhere in your chest. I see you. You're not alone in this. And if you saw a reflection of yourself in this story, don't forget to subscribe. Stick around. Because the next story, it might sound a lot like yours, and you deserve to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful stories aren't the ones we're told. They're the ones we finally give ourselves permission to tell.
When I found out I was pregnant, visions of a happy future filled my mind. A loving husband, adorable kids, and a wonderful family living happily ever after. Little did I know, a harsh reality awaited me. This is the story of my battle with my controlling husband. My name is Patricia, and I'm 30 years old. My husband's name is Robert, a 34-year-old office worker. We've been married for almost 2 years. Robert has a bit of a controlling streak, probably because he's older. He sets all the house rules. When we got married, he said he wanted me to be a homemaker, and I agreed. Our spending money has decreased since then, but I'm thankful he's providing for me. I've always been indecisive, so Robert's efficiency seemed perfect for me. I thought a little bit of control was a good thing. Then, one day, I felt unusually sick, feverish, and sluggish. I was in no shape to do housework, so I turned to Robert and said, "Sorry, I'm not feeling well today." He groggily sat up and asked, "Is it a cold?" "I don't think so, but I'm too weak to get up. Can you grab something quick for breakfast?" "All right, get some rest today. I have to go to work, but call your mom or dad if you need anything." It felt a bit lonely, but he was swamped at work. His advice to call my parents was probably his way of caring. My in-laws live nearby and have always been supportive. It wasn't that I couldn't move. I just felt awful, so I decided to take the day off. But my symptoms didn't go away. Normally, a day in bed would fix me up, but I wasn't getting better. Even Robert started to worry. "Patricia, maybe you should go to the doctor." "Right, I'll go tomorrow." The next day, I visited a local hospital. The test results came back. "You're pregnant." "What?" I was stunned by the news. "Pregnant? Me? I'm going to be a mom. Overwhelmed by joy and anxiety, I was at a loss for words. I decided to go home and wait for Robert to return. Hours later, I told him the news. Guess what, Robert? I'm pregnant. You're what? Caught off guard, he looked stunned. But you've been feeling sick, right? You sure it's not some kind of illness? No, the doctor said my symptoms were morning sickness. Morning sickness. As I explained, Robert furrowed his brows. Then he said something totally insensitive. So, you're saying this isn't an illness? You were just being spoiled. Spoiled? That's not how I see it. Morning sickness isn't an illness, but I feel awful. I'm feverish and just drained. Look, I may not be technically sick, but every woman who becomes a mom goes through morning sickness. Stop making a big deal out of it. Are you serious? The words from my husband were completely unexpected. I had thought he would be thrilled about my pregnancy. Anyway, from tomorrow, take care of the house as usual. But I've been nauseous since last night. I don't care, it's just morning sickness. Stop using it as an excuse. No matter what I said, my husband wasn't listening and instead berated me. Morning sickness isn't a disease. I knew what carrying a new life is a burden not to be taken lightly. Most men might not understand the difficulty of pregnancy, but the harsh words from my husband were almost unbearable. I tried my best to manage the housework the next day, but my body was sluggish and nausea hit me even when I was doing nothing. Cooking meals was the hardest part. The smell of rice cooking was unbearable. I can't take it anymore. Frequent dashes to the bathroom disrupted my cooking routine, and consequently, the quality and efficiency of my meals suffered. No matter how much I tried to explain, my husband wouldn't listen. On the contrary, when I was coughing in the toilet, he shouted from behind, "If I'm late for work because you're dragging, you'd better take responsibility." I'm sorry, but the smell of food was making me nauseous. I don't care, he snapped. I'm not listening to your excuses. Excuses? I didn't mean to. What if your slowness makes me late for work? Can you take responsibility for that? My husband kept yelling, completely disregarding how I felt physically and emotionally. I felt cornered. Somehow, I managed to finish preparing breakfast, fighting off nausea. Despite this, my husband didn't touch his breakfast. Great, now there's no time for breakfast because you were so slow. Get it together. With that, he slammed the door behind him. Why is this happening? I haven't done anything wrong. Why do I have to be treated so horribly when I'm just trying to nurture our child inside me? Frustration and emptiness mixed, and I couldn't stop the tears. This went on for about 2 weeks. One day, after confirming my husband had left for work, I lay down. Today, my nausea was worse than ever. I needed to eat something for the sake of our baby, but even drinking water made me throw up. I must have dozed off because when I woke up, it was already noon. I needed to eat and take care of the house. Just then, my phone rang. It was my husband. With a sinking feeling, I hesitantly answered. Hello? You took too long to answer. You weren't sleeping, were you? I'm sorry. I wasn't feeling well this morning. I was about to start on the housework. He abruptly hung up. Then a text from him arrived. Almost yelled at work, so I hung up. Patricia, are you mocking me? I felt a bottomless despair reading his furious words. My hands trembled as I held the phone. Please don't be mad. I'll do better, I replied. I'm done with you, the text read. What should I do? I needed to reply, but apologizing would only make him angrier. So what could I do? Before I could decide, another text from him arrived. The moment I read it, I dropped my phone in shock. If you can't even handle housework, abort the child. Abort our child? Everything went dark. My emotions were a mess, my breathing was erratic, my heart pounding. We were blessed with a child. I thought we'd be happy as a family, but my husband didn't even try to understand my condition. He even denied me and our unborn child. I couldn't let this go. I couldn't stay silent after being told something like this. I picked up my phone from the floor and texted him. Understood. I packed my bags, explained the situation to my parents, and asked them to pick me up. After I left, multiple texts from my husband arrived. Where are you? If you can go out, you must have been faking it. Come back now or I'll divorce you. Did this man know anything other than attacking or threatening? By this point, my love for my husband had completely cooled off. When he even called my parents' house, I told him, I have no intention of coming back, and blocked his number. Patricia, are you sure about this? You'll be giving birth alone, you know, my mom asked, concerned for her daughter. But my mind was already made up. It's okay, I'll protect this child. My mom gave me a complicated look but said, "We'll support you in any way we can." A few days later, having cut off all communication, my husband showed up at my parents' house, bringing his own parents. "Patricia, what are you thinking? Stop lazing around at your parents and come home now." As soon as he saw me, my husband started yelling. Even my father-in-law and mother-in-law joined in, blaming me. "How could you abandon your duties as a wife and dump everything on our son? Are you even a homemaker? We never thought Patricia would be like this. Were you just pretending all this time? We don't need a lazy wife in this family." Abandon my duties? Dump everything on him? This is ridiculous. I've done no such thing. I took a deep breath and gave them a piece of my mind. Enough is enough. When did I ever dump anything on Robert? Abandon my duties? I've been doing everything I can while dealing with morning sickness. Why do I have to hear this? Shut up. How dare you talk back to the head of the household? That's what I've always hated about you, my husband snapped back. Once I started, I couldn't stop. When I'm suffering from morning sickness, you tell me to hurry up and make breakfast, stop slacking off on housework. I'm not your servant. Do you even know how hard morning sickness is? Learn about a pregnant woman's body, you incompetent fool. What kind of language is that to your husband? That's just it. You're nothing but a controlling husband who doesn't understand people's feelings, and I was stupid to mistake that for reliability. Who do you think provides for you then? I don't need such a life. My father-in-law and mother-in-law, who had been listening to our argument, hesitantly asked, "Weren't you just dumping all the housework on our son, doing nothing but lazing around every day?" Exactly. Using pregnancy as an excuse to make our son do all the housework. It seemed my husband had been telling them a convenient story. I told my father-in-law and mother-in-law the truth. Yes, I've had to lie down because of severe morning sickness, but Robert told me morning sickness isn't an illness and to stop being lazy. So I've been desperately doing housework every day to the point of nearly collapsing. Father-in-law and mother-in-law's faces turned pale. Robert, what is the meaning of this? Father-in-law confronted my husband, whose body was shaking. Well, that is, even now, my husband refused to admit his fault. I had enough and decided to expose his greatest flaw. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, your son told me if I couldn't do housework, I should abort the child. What did you say? Is this true, Robert? Father-in-law and mother-in-law stared at their son, mouth agape in shock. Telling someone to abort the child is unforgivable. I've done my best in my own way. Despite that, Robert never cared about my health or our unborn child. I can't live with someone like that. The collective anger in the room turned towards my husband. In the awkward atmosphere, he nervously chuckled. Okay, I get it. I was wrong. I apologize. All right, so let's just drop it, okay? At that moment, smack, mother-in-law slapped my husband. What the hell was that for? My husband looked at his mother in surprise. Enough is enough. Do you even realize what a miracle it is to have a child? You berated Patricia while she was suffering from morning sickness, forced her to do housework, and even lied to us. How much more do you need to vilify her? Mother-in-law yelled at my husband, tears streaming down her face. The intensity left me and father-in-law speechless. Then mother-in-law turned to me to apologize. Patricia, I am so sorry. I believed that foolish son of mine and hurt you. You must have had a hard time dealing with morning sickness. I know an apology isn't enough, but I'm truly sorry. Father-in-law also deeply apologized. Patricia, let me apologize as well. Our foolish son has caused you trouble, and for that, I'm truly sorry. We'll make sure he takes responsibility. Leave the rest to us. Father-in-law then turned to my husband. We're cutting ties with you, Robert. Cutting ties? Yes. A son who can tell his wife to abort the child is not part of our family. Agree to Patricia's divorce. What? We're family. Talking about divorce and cutting ties? You must be out of your mind. Patricia's feelings won't change. Make up your mind. At his father's words, my husband was speechless. He was reluctant to sign the divorce papers, but with father-in-law and mother-in-law's help, he eventually gave in. He was utterly defeated, a shell of his former self. Later, I claimed compensation and child support through a lawyer. I've decided to give birth to our child alone. I've received several texts from my husband since. I was wrong. Please forgive me. I realize you're all I have. Please come back. But I just deleted the messages without replying. My husband, now disowned by father-in-law and mother-in-law, seems to be living alone in a neglected, trash-filled house. It's affecting his work, and now the office gossip goes like this. Heard Robert got dumped by his wife. His shirt's all wrinkled and he hasn't even shaved. And she was pregnant, right? What a loser. He used to be so controlling. My husband is becoming the office joke, losing his standing day by day. I wonder how long his high pride will allow him to endure this environment. Well, it's none of my business anymore. From now on, I want to focus on my unborn child. Even without a father, I intend to shower this child with all the love I have so they can feel truly happy. My name is Emily Davis and I am 21 years old. After graduating from culinary school, I began working at the coffee shop my parents own and operate. We have many regular customers and I absolutely love this beloved spot in our town. I have tremendous respect for my parents who have run this shop for so long. Although working while studying was more challenging than I thought, I was satisfied with my fulfilling daily life. However, a call from Bob disrupted this routine. The call came out of the blue. My wife had an accident. Bob sounded unusually flustered over the phone. Although my parents and I didn't know the details of the accident, we were deeply worried about my sister-in-law. Bob asked us to look after his children while he was at the hospital, and we readily agreed. My nieces and nephew are still quite young and need a lot of attention. Before heading to the hospital, Bob brought the two children to our coffee shop. They seemed bewildered by what was happening, but I welcomed them into the shop to reassure them. We received another call from Bob 2 hours later. We breathed a sigh of relief when we learned that my sister-in-law's life was not in danger. However, she had a severe sprain in her foot and needed to rest at home for a while. Bob asked us to continue looking after the children for a bit longer. I was torn. My parents had the coffee shop to run, and I also worked there as an employee, so it would be impossible for us to do this every day. After discussing with my parents, we agreed that I would take care of my nieces and nephew for about 2 weeks. At first, I was nervous about whether I could take proper care of them. However, they quickly warmed up to me, and they were well behaved without being particularly demanding. When things got tough, my mother was there to support me. 2 weeks later, the need for me to look after my nieces and nephew had passed and life returned to normal. But then I received another call from Bob. My wife is still not feeling well. I would appreciate it if you could look after the kids when she asks for help. Honestly, I wasn't sure what to do at the time. In the end, I couldn't bear to leave my nieces and nephew unattended, so I replied, I can do it occasionally. Sure enough, just a few days later, my sister-in-law sent me a message saying, could you watch the kids tomorrow? I replied, okay. On the day my sister-in-law had requested my help, I went to pick up my nephews in the morning, dropped them off at kindergarten, and then brought them back home in the afternoon to take care of them. My mother occasionally dropped by to check on things. In the evening, after dinner and a bath for the kids, we waited for Bob to pick them up. When Bob arrived, I handed him the dinner my mother had brought for him and his wife. He said, that's a lifesaver, as he took the children and went home. Honestly, I wondered if all this was necessary, and I was exhausted from the unfamiliar tasks. However, I couldn't leave Bob's family to fend for themselves. Both my mother and I did what we could. Then, a few days later, I got another message from my sister-in-law. Could you help out with the kids again? Just like the previous time, I went to pick up the children in the morning and headed to the kindergarten. The kindergarten teacher seemed to have remembered me, which made the drop-off process smoother. The boys waved goodbye, saying, see you, Emily, and happily went off to kindergarten without any fuss. After that, I helped out at the cafe where my parents worked. However, it was only a short while before it was time to pick up the children again. My father pointed out the time, and I quickly left the cafe. At the kindergarten, there were already a few people waiting to pick up their children. As I waited for the boys to come out, someone called me from behind, Emily. I turned around, surprised to see a senior I knew from school. Ashley, it was an unexpected reunion. Long time no see, she said. She told me your child was also attending the same kindergarten as my nephews. I wanted to chat with Ashley, but it wasn't really a situation where we could stand around and talk, so we exchanged contact information and parted ways. The next day, Ashley came to the cafe during my shift. My parents, seeing the situation, told us to take our time and chat when there were fewer customers. I decided to take advantage of my parents' offer and chat with Ashley. It seemed that Ashley, my senior from school, really took a liking to our cafe, which made me quite happy. However, Ashley suddenly became serious as if she remembered something and began to speak. By the way, I saw your nephew's mom the other day. I blinked in surprise at the unexpected topic and just nodded in response. Really? Yeah. I didn't speak to her, but I have talked to her before, so I'm certain it was her. But there's something. Ashley seemed to struggle to find the right words, piquing my interest, so I urged her to go on. The contents of her words left me astonished. Moreover, it seemed my mom overheard Ashley's conversation, and our eyes met. After Ashley left, I asked Mom what she thought about what had been discussed. Let's keep an eye on the situation a little longer. I nodded in agreement. Then, one day, I got a sudden call from Bob. I couldn't pick up immediately, and the call ended, but noticing multiple missed calls in my call log, I quickly called him back. What the hell is going on? I was confused and asked him. Bob spoke in a voice that seemed to suppress his anger. Apparently, he went home to pick up something he'd forgotten and found the kids home alone in a house that should have been empty. I was shocked at Bob's story. At the same time, a question arose. Why am I the one being yelled at? My question seemed to further ignite Bob's anger. My wife told me she asked you to take care of the kids today, and yet you left them alone. And you have the nerve to talk back to me. I was taken aback by Bob's words, but there were several things I couldn't agree with, so I retorted. Yes, your wife sent me a message, but I told her I couldn't do it today. Mom fell ill last night, and we are short-staffed. I have to work at the cafe and don't have time to look after the kids. Upon hearing my explanation, Bob went quiet. According to my wife. Then he asked me a question. She said every time she asked you to take care of the kids, you complained and demanded to be paid. Is this true? I couldn't help but raise my voice in the middle of the conversation. What? I've never said anything like that. I've never explicitly asked for money. I've spent on the kids, and Mom should know that too. If you have doubts, why don't you ask her? When I retorted in an angry tone, Bob fell completely silent. Then he muttered, So what was that story about the money my wife was talking about? I have no idea. You should ask your wife about it. I stated clearly. Bob, sounding tired, said, I'll do that. Although I was hesitant to pile on with my next revelation, I couldn't stay silent after hearing the current conversation and decided to share what I'd heard from Ashley. After hearing the story, Bob said in a genuinely exhausted voice, Give me some time to think, and hung up the phone. Afterwards, as I started to calm down, I became worried about Bob and decided to tell Mom what I had said to him. A while passed without any word from Bob, and during that time, my parents and I were worried. However, a few days later, another message arrived from Bob's wife. It was the same as usual. She was asking me to take care of the kids. At first, I thought of refusing. I had been doing so much for her and the kids out of goodwill, but knowing that I had been talked about behind my back, I felt ridiculed. But Mom stopped me. She told me to contact Bob before replying to Bob's wife, and I forwarded the message to him. A few minutes later, a reply came from Bob. It seemed he had been distressed, but he seemed to have made up his mind after my message. After hearing Bob's feelings, I replied to Bob's wife, Okay, and went to pick up the kids as usual. After taking the kids to kindergarten, I contacted someone. Hanging up the phone, I braced myself. Everything was ready when I arrived at the coffee shop. Bob was already there. Bob's face was tense, whether from nervousness or anxiety. It was the first time I saw him like this, and I hesitated about how to approach him. But then Mom went up to him and said, I'll pick up the kids, so don't worry. You need to see for yourself and focus on talking things out with your wife. Emily, I'm counting on you. Bob, looking startled by Mom's words, nodded. Then I nodded back at Mom too. Okay, I'm off. I set off for Bob's house along with him. Bob paused in front of his house, fumbling for his keys. I noticed his hands shaking but pretended not to see. Faint voices of my sister-in-law and a few other women were audible from inside the house. Bob unlocked the door and slowly pushed it open. We stepped inside quietly, trying not to make a sound. The chatter was now clear. So, how's your foot doing? I could hear my sister-in-law replying to the woman's question. Oh, it's fine, almost completely healed. Oh, I knew it. I thought the strange feeling I had recently seemed to be resolved. For a moment, I was distracted, but I snapped back to attention to focus on what my sister-in-law was saying. But once it's fully healed, my husband will probably find out, and I will be able to laze around like I can now. Oh, right, your sister-in-law and her parents are looking after the kids, aren't they? How lucky. Yeah, really lucky that Emily isn't married. I'm so grateful to have an unemployed single homebody living at home. Hearing my sister-in-law's words, I felt my body getting hot with anger. I had suspected that we might be being exploited by my sister-in-law, but I hadn't imagined she would think this way. I reached my limit, burst open the door to the living room, and stormed in. My sister-in-law looked shocked when she saw me. I glared at her and said, "Yes, I'm not married and I'm living at home, but I'm not exactly idle. I thought we were helping out because you guys were in trouble. I didn't think you would talk about it like this." But my sister-in-law seemed more interested in why I was here and how I got into the house. She looked at me and said, "Well, why are you here? How did you get into the house?" I felt a tap on my shoulder and stepped back. When she finally noticed Bob, her eyes widened. In a voice as cold as mine, if not colder, Bob said, "I let us in. You've been lying to me all this time. You're the worst. You've been using the money I gave you for yourself instead of giving it to Emily, haven't you?" My sister-in-law turned as white as a sheet. I approached my sister-in-law's friends and told them it was time to leave. Everyone left with awkward expressions on their faces. Among them, there was one person who made eye contact with me as she left. That was Ashley. Ashley had previously had interactions with my sister-in-law. However, Ashley seemed to have some concerns about my sister-in-law's recent behavior, and when we unexpectedly met again, she offered to help with the situation. Once all of the friends left, my sister-in-law began to talk, crying. To make her story short, this was her excuse. Ever since the birth of their second child, taking care of the kids became increasingly difficult. Bob was always busy with work and couldn't help with childcare or housework, which was tough. When she got injured, my mother and I began to help out, and things got a lot easier. Because of this, she ended up relying on us. About the money Bob gave her, she hadn't had any disposable income since getting married, and she couldn't resist using the money because of this. Frankly, I wasn't convinced by my sister-in-law's excuses. Perhaps sensing my feelings, Bob suggested it was time to leave for the day. I took his advice and left Bob's house. When I got home, my mother was waiting with a worried look on her face. It seemed like my dad was looking after my nephews, so I took this chance to explain everything to my mother. She made a complicated expression and said, "I see. It's a problem between those two now," and went back to my nephews. I followed her. My nephews, who knew nothing of the situation, greeted me with smiles and called out, "Aunt Emily." Although I felt a complex mix of emotions, I did my best not to show it on my face and responded to my nephews. Several hours later, Bob returned home. He said he would be staying at our parents' house for the night. My mother, seeming to understand Bob's thoughts, merely responded with, "I see." After putting his kids to bed, Bob explained his decision to our parents and me. "I won't divorce her this time, but if she repeats the same mistake, then I'll consider divorce. Emily, I'm sorry for what you've been through. And you too, Mom." "No, it's okay, but are you sure that's what you want, bruh?" Worried about the relationship, I asked Bob. He nodded and said, "Yeah. After talking to my wife, I realize I'm partly to blame too. We've decided to give it another try together." I asked Bob what he meant. He said, "I've been all about work and never really paid attention to my wife. I also left the kids entirely up to her. I now realize that this may have put undue pressure on her, and I've been unfair to our kids. I should have spent more quality time with them." Listening to Bob, I honestly had mixed feelings, but Mom said, "I get it. As an individual, it's hard to forgive what your wife did to us. But as a wife and a mother, I can't say I don't understand the feelings at all. If this is the decision you both have made, I won't oppose it, but make sure you don't involve others in your problems again." At Mom's words, Bob nodded, biting his lip. Since then, neither Bob nor my sister-in-law has asked anything of me. I haven't seen her even once. It must be awkward for her to face me. My father is angry, saying she can't even apologize, but truthfully, I prefer not to see my sister-in-law to avoid bringing back unpleasant memories. When I told Bob this, he promised, "I understand. I'll try to avoid having you and her meet as much as possible." Thanks to that, my everyday life returned to normal. Hearing the sound of the bell, I turned around. At the entrance stood Bob with my nephews at his sides. Letting go of Bob's hand, my nephews raced over to me, calling out my name, "Aunt Emily." I happily responded with a smile to my adorable nephews. While the kids were chatting with my parents over cake, Bob quietly told me that although my sister-in-law was remorseful, she disliked the kids going to see me because they were fond of me. But hearing that, I couldn't help but think she had brought it upon herself. There may come a time in the future when I have to face her again. However, right now, it doesn't seem likely that I will forget what my sister-in-law did to me anytime soon. I live with my parents and have a sister named Sophia. She's more beautiful and smarter than me, and our parents have always adored her. As for me, I've always been treated like I'm invisible by my parents. Hiding in your room again, you're such an idle youth. Don't think we'll be around forever, they would say to me. I never thought they'd be around forever, and I have my own thoughts and actions, but my parents have labeled me as an NET and don't take me seriously. One day, my sister spoke to me. Poor thing, you're neither cute nor exceptionally talented. Don't you ever wonder what you're living for? I'm happy with my life, so don't say weird things. Oh well, dear, as you please, but let me tell you something great. Something great? What? I'm getting married to a very handsome and high-income man. Oh, that's good for you. Jealous. You must be. You'll never get married. My sister assumed I couldn't get married and kept bragging about herself. I'm not particularly interested in marriage, so whether I can get married or not doesn't matter to me. I was planning to attend my sister's wedding since she's family, but then… What? You're coming to my wedding? Yeah, is that a problem? Of course it's a problem. If a bottom-feeder idle youth like you comes, it'll be a disgrace to the ceremony. What's a bottom-feeder idle youth? A bottom-feeder idle youth is just that. You can't do anything completely useless. Why are you saying such horrible things? I just want to celebrate your wedding. I don't need your congratulations. Don't come. My sister despised me and repeatedly told me not to come. Mother and father also said that a bottom-feeder idle youth like me shouldn't come. But I thought it would be a problem for my sister if no family members were there, so I decided to attend. On the wedding day, as I was walking in my dress, father and mother found me. What are you doing here? I told you not to come to the wedding. My parents yelled at me. Hearing a commotion, my sister approached. Why is a bottom-feeder idle youth like you here? I didn't invite you. But if there's no family, it might look suspicious. I thought it would be better for you if I was here. Why are you thinking unnecessary things? Your existence is a secret to the other family, you know. What? You didn't know about the family dinner, did you? We didn't invite you. Why would you do something so cruel? This is only natural. You'd just be in the way. If we said we have a bottom-feeder idle youth in our family, the marriage might be called off. That's why we didn't invite you. Ha ha ha. My sister laughed hysterically as she said this. My parents were smirking. The three of them had conspired together. Seeing their determination to erase my existence, I became deeply saddened. Get out, you useless bottom-feeder idle youth, my sister yelled at me with fury. I realized that nothing I said would matter to this family anymore, so I reluctantly decided to leave the venue. I'm going home then, goodbye. Later. My family pointed and laughed at me as I said this. Holding back my frustration, someone called out to me on the way. Boss, good work today. Ah, good work. Wait, what are you wearing? Yes, I'm the one getting married. Did you know? What? Wait, how do you know, Caleb? And what's this about being the boss? Oh, for you, this person is the president of my company. No way, you're the president. What's your relationship with Sophia? She's my sister. What? Sophia is your sister. But I didn't see you at the family greeting. Well, my sister didn't take me to the greeting. Why would she do such a thing? She thought I was a bottom-feeder idle youth. Sophia, is this true? Caleb yelled at my sister. Wait, but she's always in her room, just staring at her computer. I never thought she was working, my sister said, trembling, but Caleb continued to be angry. Don't joke around. The boss gives us precise instructions from home. She's a skilled executive. Caleb's furious defense finally made my sister realize the gravity of what she had done. I didn't know, Emma. I'm sorry. I never thought. It's fine, sister. I understand what kind of person you are now. I'm going home, so I'll call the limousine. A limousine? A luxury car? Boss, you leaving? Yes, it seems I'm not welcome here, I said. Caleb became very angry with my sister. Hey, what are you doing, Sophia? How dare you speak to the boss like that? But I didn't know. How can you blame me for not knowing? Ignorance is no excuse. Boss, I apologize for Safia's rudeness. It's fine. She's my family, so you don't have to apologize. No, I'll take responsibility and call off the marriage with Safia. What, Caleb? What are you saying? Quiet. I can't forgive someone who disrespects the boss. Caleb was angry as if it were a personal affront to him. Why are you so angry? Yes, I said terrible things to Emma, but it's strange for you to be so angry about it. You see, I owe the boss a lot. I kept changing jobs and my work history was a mess. I couldn't get hired anywhere, and the only places left were companies that ignored workers' rights and welfare, forcing people to work in unfair conditions. Just when I was about to give up and take a job at one of those places, my application was accepted, and I got an interview at the boss's company. Caleb was talking about when he first got hired at my company. It brought back memories. I remembered that happening. The boss said she wanted to see me, not my resume. After talking with me for a while, she understood who I was and hired me. The boss's company offers fair working conditions and values me properly, meaning the boss changed my life. Is that so? I didn't know. Wow, what a wonderful story, my sister said, desperately trying to get on Caleb's good side. However, Caleb saw through her cunning plan and became even angrier. It's obvious you're trying to win me over, but I have no intention of forgiving the disrespect you showed to the boss. Caleb's genuine anger left my sister trembling. Please don't cancel the wedding. Come on, father, mother, say something. My sister was trying to get help from our parents, but they were just cowering and didn't seem to want to help. We didn't mean to blame Emma as much as Safia did. That's right, this is all your own doing, father said. What? Well, the idea of the wedding being canceled. My sister was crying and screaming. Caleb calmly explained what would happen next. If we cancel the wedding, there will be a cancellation fee. If we cancel on the same day, it will be 100%. What? 100%? How much money is that? Well, the total cost of the wedding was $30,000, so it would be $30,000. What? I have to pay $30,000 even if it's canceled. That's how cancellation fees work. No way, then we should just continue with the wedding. Sorry, but I won't do that. I can't forgive what you said to the boss, and I expect you would continue to speak abusively if we got married. I can't live with someone so dangerous. Dangerous? Han, please. What do you think, boss? Caleb turned to me, and I calmly replied, she's saying this now, but she's just saying what sounds good to get through this situation. If you get married, she'll surely start abusing you too, saying things like, it's lazy not to do housework just because you're working, or being a homemaker is hard, so help with the chores. I see. Then it's better to call off the marriage. Hey, don't say such unnecessary things. I almost had him convinced. Did you hear that? She said convinced. That's not a word you use with someone you're going to marry, is it? I think so. I think it's better to call off the marriage or go change, Caleb said and walked away. Wait, don't go, Caleb. Emma, what are you doing? My wedding is ruined. Don't blame me. It's your own fault. It's what you deserve. My sister became even angrier at my words. If you hadn't come to the wedding venue in the first place, none of this would have happened. It's your fault. Take responsibility and bring Caleb back right now. I understand how you feel, but Caleb seems to have lost his will to marry. If you get married in this state, it will only be painful for both of you. I think it's better to call it off. What should I do then? You heard the cancellation fee, right? He said $30,000. That's a huge amount. Yes, it is. Even if we split the cancellation fee, it's $15,000. No, if they say it's my fault, I might have to pay the whole amount. Well, that's a possibility, but what can you do? You've done enough to deserve it. Hey, I just said some harsh words. To cancel the wedding over that? It's too much. Don't tell me, it's Caleb's decision. Hey, father, mother, say something. When my sister turned to our parents, they suddenly became very friendly towards me. Well, I never knew Emma had become a boss. Oh my, as a mother, I'm so proud. No, I always believed in Emma. She's a real go-getter. From now on, let's live relying on Emma's money. Relying on my money? You must be joking, I said. They had also been verbally abusive to me, so I didn't want to spend money on them. Sorry, but I don't want to live with my family anymore. I'm going home now to look for an apartment to live alone. What? Why? We've been living together all this time. Why suddenly live alone? I live with you because I believed in something called family bonds. I thought that if we lived together, you might understand my job someday. But the result was different. You never understood my job and even insulted me. And now you want to rely on my money? Would you want to live with such people? I understand. I'm sorry. From now on, I'll cherish you. Please continue living with us, okay? I said no, didn't I? I don't want to live with you anymore. Even though I said that, father and mother kept insisting. What if we kick Sophia out of the house? Then you'll live with us, right? What? Wait, father, what are you saying? Shut up. I was a fool to expect anything from you. We'd be better off living with Emma than with you. It was the moment father abandoned my sister. As a family member, I didn't want to witness such a cruel moment. Father, just so you know, I hate people who abandon others so easily the most. What? What are you saying? People like that will eventually flip-flop on me too, so I can't live with them. No way? Hey, you stupid husband, what are you doing failing to lure her in? Shut up. While father and mother were arguing, Caleb returned, now dressed in casual clothes. What's going on? You still fighting? Caleb, I can't believe you really went to change. I told you I would, didn't I? What are you talking about? Are you really going to call off the wedding? I hate this. Why is this happening? Yeah, just so you know, you're the cause, so you'll have to bear the full cancellation fee. I've already talked to her parents about it. What? That's terrible. It's not just my fault, is it? Sis, no matter how you look at it, it's your fault. Hey, you be quiet. How dare you tell the boss to be quiet? I won't tolerate any more insults to the boss. Wait, please wait. Boss, have you called the limo yet? No, I got caught up in talking and forgot to call. Then I'll call it. I need to go home too. With that, Caleb started making the call. Wait a minute, please reconsider. Reconsider? What's going to change? I don't love you anymore, you know. Don't say that. It was my fault. I promise I won't say anything terrible to Emma again. We've had this conversation many times. Enough already. Boss, I've called the limo. It'll be here soon. Then let's wait outside. I'll go change too. Wait, Emma, let's talk. There's nothing to talk about. Wait, Emma, father and mother are begging too. Without you, we'll have to rely on Sophia's money. But Sophia will pay the cancellation fee and run out of money. We won't be able to live properly. Father, mother, if you need money, why don't you get a part-time job or something? No way. I don't want to work at this age. It's okay. There are still people working even in their 70s, and father and mother are still in their 60s, right? You're still energetic. That's not the problem. My body is heavy and it's hard to move, and you're telling me to work. Yes. No way. Are we done here? I'm going to change, so don't talk to me anymore. After I get home, I'll pack my bags and stay at a hotel for now. I have no intention of dealing with you ever again. Hey, wait for me. Please don't go. Don't abandon us, Emma. My sister and parents were screaming, but I quickly changed and left the venue. Afterward, I rode home in the limo Caleb called, packed my bags, and headed to a hotel. I looked up apartments at the hotel, signed a lease right away, and completely cut ties with my family. Sophia ended up having to pay the $30,000 wedding cancellation fee, and my parents were so angry that they disowned her. In the end, my parents ran out of money and both had to work part-time. Sophia, having nowhere else to go after being disowned, began living as a gig worker. I continued to grow my company, increase my income, and lived happily ever after. My husband's estate, worth $80 million, along with this house, will be passed down to me. We don't have any children, so everything is mine. My sister-in-law speaks in a condescending tone. My name is Emma, and I'm a 45-year-old part-time worker. My husband and I have two sons, a senior and a sophomore in high school. Our eldest son is taking the college entrance exam this year. He aspires to be a lawyer and has been studying diligently, a dream he's had since he was a small child, likely influenced by my older brother, Oliver. Oliver, a lawyer, established his own law firm a few years ago. My eldest son, having grown up admiring my brother, has always excelled in his studies. When Oliver heard about my son's ambition, he was thrilled and encouraged him. My son often tells him, "I will be a lawyer like you, uncle." Oliver, chuckling, would reply, Hurry up and become a lawyer and follow in my footsteps. Though married, my brother has no children and often visits us, spoiling my sons. His wife, 10 years his junior, is an eccentric woman who rarely visits, so we've hardly spoken. My brother lost our parents when we were young, so he took on a parental role when I got married. He married shortly after me. When we met his fiancée, we were surprised by her grumpy demeanor. I told my brother and his fiancée, "You two are great together," but privately expressed my concerns to my husband. After the marriage, my husband agreed that she wasn't particularly pleasant. Before they married, my brother bought a house and we visited to celebrate. The house was magnificent, befitting my brother's success. My sister-in-law wasn't there, and my husband joked, "Has your wife already left you?" My brother's stern expression made us nervous. He explained that she often returned to her parents' house and was there for her mother's birthday. Suddenly, my brother asked seriously, "If I ever can't have children, can I adopt one of yours?" I thought he was joking, but he was serious. I couldn't respond, but my husband laughed it off, saying, "Let's discuss it when the time comes. If you're okay with our children, you can adopt whichever you want." My husband dismissed it lightly, but I was concerned about their marriage and the adoption. Whenever we visited my brother or he came to our house, his wife was never present. He never mentioned her, and I avoided asking. They had been married for over 10 years, and I had almost forgotten about her. This year, my eldest son was accepted into his dream law school. My brother brought up adoption again during the celebration. "Like I said before, would you allow me to adopt one of your kids?" he asked. He and his wife couldn't have children, so he seemed serious this time. My husband replied lightly, "Would you prefer our eldest son since he wants to be a lawyer?" He said it simply, but I was cautious. It was a major life decision for our sons, even if they would be with their uncle. I worried about my sister-in-law mistreating my son, who wouldn't be her biological child. I asked my brother, "Is your wife in favor of adopting?" He replied with a sour smile, "Don't worry about her. We've already discussed it." I was relieved they had talked about it, but I couldn't decide right away. I wanted to discuss it with my two sons first. They were in high school, so I felt they should make their own decisions. We didn't talk further that day, but a few days later, I got a call from my brother's law office. They said he had collapsed. I rushed to the hospital and found his colleagues waiting anxiously. My brother had a stroke at work and was unconscious. They couldn't reach my sister-in-law. I called her landline, but she didn't answer, and I didn't have her cell number. My husband and second son arrived later, and we eventually found a smartphone among my brother's belongings. We unlocked it and found her number. When I called, she answered angrily, "I told you not to call again. I will sue you." I calmly said, "It's Emma, Oliver's sister. My brother passed out and was taken to the hospital." She softened immediately. "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was Oliver. You said he collapsed." I explained his condition and which hospital he was in. She replied cheerfully, "I can't go right now. I have things to do. But let me know if anything changes," and hung up. I wondered what could be more important than her sick husband. Knowing my sister-in-law wouldn't help, we decided to take care of my brother ourselves. Since my eldest son had finished his university entrance exams, he visited my brother every day. My brother never regained consciousness and remained critical, but my sister-in-law never called or visited. About a week later, I called her again. She answered quickly and gleefully, "What's the matter? Did he die?" I wanted to yell at her but kept my composure. "He's still alive." "Why don't you visit the hospital?" she retorted. "I'm not a doctor or a spiritual healer. There's nothing I can do for his recovery." Her demeanor infuriated me, so I hung up. I began to suspect that my brother's wish to adopt one of my sons stemmed from giving up on having children with his wife. When my brother got married, I asked how they met, and he said through a marriage agency. I wondered if she married him for his status as a lawyer and a good life. This thought enraged me more, but my husband said something crueler. If Oliver dies, his wife will inherit everything since they have no children. Maybe he wanted to adopt because he was thinking about his inheritance. I wish I had decided sooner, but it was too late. After my brother's visit, I casually mentioned adoption to my sons. My second son said he would be happy to be adopted. Unlike my eldest, he had no clear goals and thought life with Oliver would be easy. I expected my eldest, who admired his uncle, to want to be adopted too, but he surprised me. "I don't want to be adopted because I want to take care of you, Mom and Dad." I was overjoyed but knew my eldest, aspiring to be a lawyer, was the right choice for adoption. I couldn't complete the adoption process on behalf of my unconscious brother. I didn't want his inheritance but didn't want his wife to get anything either. My brother never recovered and passed away a few days later. I had to contact my sister-in-law. My brother recently passed away. Can we arrange the funeral? She responded cheerfully. Everything is up to you. Please don't appoint me as a pallbearer. I don't want to deal with any formalities, and hung up quickly. My husband and I planned the funeral, helped by my brother's law firm staff. Though my brother was the firm's representative lawyer, he had delegated management to a trusted colleague, so the firm would continue operating smoothly. Many people attended the funeral, and there were so many wreaths they couldn't all fit in the hall. I realized how wonderful my brother was once again. My sons helped with the funeral, but my second son, seeing the prominent attendees, was frustrated. I knew I should have been adopted. I had no idea how amazing he was. My husband and I understood his sorrow. I served as a pallbearer, but no one asked about my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law wasn't there, and no one mentioned her absence. I wondered if we were the only ones who knew my brother had married. My brother and his wife didn't have a wedding, only a honeymoon, so even our relatives might have missed it. Seeing what was happening now, I almost wished they had never married. Who needs a wife who doesn't attend her husband's funeral? I regretted not allowing my brother to adopt my second son sooner, fearing she would take all his estate. With the help of the law firm staff, my brother's funeral was completed. I invited everyone to my brother's house for a meal to thank them. My brother will be able to rest in peace because of all of you, I said. We were all very sad when my sister-in-law appeared in a flashy pink coat. She addressed us as if she had planned to arrive just as the funeral ended. Why did you come here? I asked. With a big smile, she announced loudly, my husband's estate of $80 million, as well as this house, will be passed down to me, his wife. We don't have any children, so everything is mine. For some reason, her triumphant statement made my brother's subordinates laugh. We looked at them, confused. My sister-in-law glared and yelled, what exactly are you laughing about? You're so impolite. One of the lawyers, smirking, responded, we know you're officially divorced. We all knew the result of your divorce settlement the day before he collapsed. I exclaimed, what? You were divorced? My sister-in-law stared at the lawyer who had revealed the truth with a terrifying expression. When she clenched her teeth, another lawyer started talking. I also heard that you were charged alimony in conjunction with your divorce because your affair caused it. It is inevitable. My sister-in-law yelled, I'm not required to pay alimony, am I? I no longer have anyone to pay. She spoke mockingly, but the lawyer quickly retorted, the right to alimony will also be inherited, so you will have to pay it to Emma. She's the inheritor. For the first time, I realized I was my brother's sole inheritor, as our parents were gone, and I was all that was left. My sister-in-law seemed to realize this too, and looked at me with a horrified expression, causing me to step back. Still unconvinced, she yelled, don't I get half of the estate now that the divorce is settled? A dismayed lawyer responded, didn't Oliver give you money when the divorce was finalized? I have a receipt certificate. He also purchased the house before the marriage, so it is not subject to property division. I enjoyed watching her being lectured by the lawyers. She recalled something and chatted while laughing a little. There's life insurance. I should still be the beneficiary. She impressed me with her attitude, acting confidently despite everyone being against her. She said she had changed the beneficiary of Oliver's life insurance to herself. However, the lawyer quickly denied this. Oliver is a firm man. I think he changed it when the divorce was finalized. I searched my brother's belongings and found the life insurance policy. When my sister-in-law saw it, she snatched it from me and impatiently looked at the beneficiary. She dropped her shoulders in disappointment and handed the certificate back to me. The beneficiary was me. Realizing she was getting nowhere, she yelled, I married a lawyer because I thought he was wealthy, but I've only got a little money, and now I have to pay alimony. This is a huge mistake. The lawyer replied grimly. Oliver said the same thing. He regretted taking advice from a marriage counselor and bemoaned that he had made a huge mistake. My brother had never said anything like that to me, but he had always been truthful with his colleagues and subordinates. Unable to refute anything, my sister-in-law stormed out of my brother's house. She would have to pay alimony in installments, but she didn't have a job. She began looking for one quickly but quit immediately. She re-registered with the marriage counseling agency, looking for a wealthy man to make quick money. She found one and cheated him out of his money, but he caught on and reported her to the police. She was arrested for marriage fraud, according to the lawyer who worked at my brother's firm. No alimony was ever paid to me, and when I went to see the lawyer about it, he told me, now that she has been apprehended, alimony payments may be impossible to obtain for the foreseeable future. Alimony wasn't something I was interested in. I was more interested in seeing her suffer a terrible fate, and I believed my brother would agree. I hoped the police would investigate her thoroughly and charge her as a felon. My family moved into the house my brother left behind after unexpectedly inheriting his property. My husband and sons were ecstatic to live in a big house after previously living in an apartment. My eldest son was studying law harder than ever before. Observing my brother's colleagues and subordinates argue with his sister-in-law made him yearn to be a lawyer. Though he was never adopted, I hoped he would carry on my brother's legacy and become a great lawyer like him. My second son, however, was upset and disappointed that I inherited my brother's entire estate. He half-jokingly said, "I wish I was adopted by uncle so I could have inherited everything." Hello, my name is Bree. A lot has happened to me in the past couple of months, and I thought, what better way to vent than to write? To start off, I'd like to introduce my husband, Zach. He's the love of my life and my rock. Zach is my support system and my best friend. We've always had a very loving and fulfilling relationship. Like every couple, we've had fights, but we've always been very honest with each other, and I absolutely love that about us. But there was one thing that troubled our relationship. My mother-in-law, Joan. She always tried to ruin our happiness. Joan would say things to Zach that made him doubt if I was good enough for him. It hurt a lot to think she didn't believe I was worthy of his love. But Joan didn't stop there. She even tried to set Zach up on a date while we were already married. It was beyond mean and disrespectful. Zach didn't agree with her, but her constant bothering started to affect him. He began to pull away from me, and it felt like we were growing apart. "Can we talk about what's been going on with you lately? I feel like you're ignoring me, and it's been bothering me," I asked. "No, I'm not," Zach replied. "I really feel like you're struggling with something. It's affecting us. I need you to tell me what you're feeling," I insisted. "It's not a big deal. We're just going through a rough patch. It'll pass," he said dismissively. "But it's been going on for a while now. I miss us, you know," I pleaded. "Look, it's probably just stress from work or something. We'll be fine. Don't make it into a big deal," he said. "I don't think it's just about work. I feel like this has something to do with your mother and what she's been saying," I pressed. "My mom doesn't mean any harm. She's just concerned about me. It's not worth getting all worked up about," he responded. "Your mother is not concerned about you. She's trying to break us apart. Please tell me you're not actually listening to her," I said, desperate. "You're blowing this out of proportion. It's not as serious as you're making it out to be. Just let it go," he said, brushing me off. His casual disregard for my feelings left me profoundly saddened, as though our once cherished love had lost its significance to him. I experienced a sense of betrayal, questioning whether I truly belonged with someone who could dismiss me so effortlessly. During this period, I grappled with a profound sense of loneliness. One day, Joan came to visit us and asked for some alone time with Zach. Deep down, I felt something was really wrong. Regardless of my instincts, I respected their privacy and stayed outside the room, but curiosity got the better of me, and I couldn't help but listen in on their conversation. What I heard really shocked me. Joan was saying mean things about me to Zach, trying to convince him that we should get a divorce. She even brought out papers for him to sign, wanting me to sign them too. It hurt so much, and my world felt like it was falling apart. Zach sounded uncomfortable, trying to disagree with what she was saying. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked into the room, determined to confront Joan about her behavior. "Joan, why do you have such a problem with me? Why are you literally harassing my husband?" I demanded. "Oh please, I'm not harassing him. I'm just looking out for him," she replied. "How is talking crap about me and forcing him to give me a divorce supposed to be looking out for him?" I asked incredulously. "I just think that Zach deserves someone better than you, someone more attractive and successful, and I'm trying to nudge him in that direction," she said. "What is wrong with you?" I exclaimed. "Okay, that's enough, Mom. I've tolerated your behavior for a long while now, but now that you've properly dragged Bree into this and hurt her, I'm putting my foot down. I need you to leave us alone," Zach said firmly. Zach, you don't understand that I'm only trying to make your life better, Joan protested. If you actually cared for me, you'd see that I'm already living my best life right now with Bree. Please leave and don't even try to come back. I don't want to talk to you anymore, Zach said, standing his ground. You'll regret this, mark my words, Joan warned as she left. After Joan left, Zach and I sat down to talk about what happened. Babe, I'm so sorry for everything. I want you to know that I never once considered anything my mother said. It's just she's the woman who raised me and I couldn't bring myself to get angry at her, Zach explained. It hurt me, babe. It hurt that you didn't open up to me about anything. Do you know how much pain I've endured? I asked, tears in my eyes. I know, and I really regret that. I thought I could handle it on my own, but the moment she involved you, I couldn't bear it anymore. I should have stood up for you sooner, Zach admitted. You know what hurts even more? That it took so much for you to stand up for me. It feels like I'm not enough, like I'm not worth fighting for, I said, my voice breaking. That's not true at all. You're the best thing that has ever happened to me, and I'm so sorry I made you feel like you aren't. I'll be better, I promise. I'll always stand up for you, no matter what the circumstances are. You deserve nothing less, Zach vowed. It took time, but eventually, I found it in my heart to forgive him and begin healing. Healing wasn't easy. Joan really hurt me, but with love, patience, and open communication, we rebuilt our relationship stronger than ever. We learned to trust and support each other no matter what. We grew closer, cherishing the love and happiness we share. 3 years had passed, and we had completely lost contact with Joan. She never reached out to us. And honestly, we didn't make any effort to check in with her either. Life moved on, and we focused on making our lives happier with each other. Recently, all my hard work paid off when I received a tremendous promotion at work. It was a moment of pride and joy for both Zach and me. Along with the promotion came incredible benefits and a significant increase in my salary. We celebrated this huge accomplishment, feeling grateful for the success that had come our way. Zach couldn't contain his happiness and admiration for me. He took to social media to express his appreciation, posting a heartfelt message about my achievements. Little did we know that Joan would come across that post and decide to contact Zach. When Joan called, Zach answered, but his tone was cold and distant. What do you want? Zach asked. Zach, I want to apologize for everything I've done. I've been going to therapy and it made me realize how hurtful and toxic my behavior has been. I truly am sorry, Joan said. I'm glad you understand the mistakes you've made, Zach replied. Thank you, Zach. I hope you'll be able to forgive me, Joan said. It'll be a long time before that happens. You'll have to work very hard to prove to me and Bree that you've actually changed, Zach responded. Of course, I'll do anything. I just want to have you back in my life, Joan pleaded. How about I show you how much I've changed this week? Joan asked. What do you mean? Zach inquired. I have a reunion with some old friends in our town, so I was wondering, would it be possible for me to stay with you for a couple of days? Please, I promise I've changed, and I want to earn your forgiveness as fast as I can because I miss you, my dear, Joan said. Fine, but just for a couple of days, Zach agreed. Thank you. I can't wait to see you again. You won't regret letting me stay with you, I promise, Joan said. Zach ultimately agreed because he still loved his mother and believed that she had changed. He felt a sense of relief knowing that she was doing better. When Zach told me about the situation later that day, I couldn't help but be visibly upset. Why would you even invite her after all the pain she has caused? She literally tried to force you to divorce me, I exclaimed. I know, but I heard the sincerity in her voice. It's been a long time since that incident. I genuinely believe she has changed and wants to make things right. I want to give her a chance and see if we can rebuild our relationship, Zach explained. It's hard for me to let go of my anger. I'm scared that she might hurt us again. I need you to understand that if Joan tries anything, I won't hesitate to leave immediately, I said, my voice trembling. Yeah, but don't worry. I promise to keep a close eye on my mother. If she crosses any boundaries or causes any harm, I will stand up for you. You're my priority, and I won't let her hurt you again, Zach reassured me. All right, I trust you, and I hope you're right about Joan's transformation. Let's hope this reunion brings positive change for all of our sakes, I said, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. The next few days, I was an anxious mess as I waited for Joan to arrive. When the day finally arrived, Joan greeted us with warm hugs and genuine smiles. She sincerely apologized for her past behavior, expressing her desire to make things right. I was surprised by Joan's new attitude. In the past, she would have found a way to belittle my promotion, but this time she surprised me by appreciating my hard work. It felt good to be acknowledged and appreciated by her. As the next 2 days passed, there were no incidents or conflicts. Joan seemed to genuinely enjoy our company and made an effort to get to know me better. We engaged in pleasant conversations, laughed together, and shared stories. It was a side of Joan I hadn't seen before, and it gave me hope that perhaps our relationship could be rebuilt. One night, Zach and I talked about Joan's change of heart. "I'm sorry for getting upset when you told your mom that she could stay with us. I know it wasn't an easy choice, and I can see why you wanted to give her a chance," I said. "You don't need to say sorry, babe. I know she hurt us before, and I get why you were worried. It's normal to be skeptical after what we've been through," Zach replied. I have to say that I'm really surprised that Joan actually said sorry and went to therapy. I didn't expect her to change, I admitted. "I hope this is a chance for us to have a better relationship with her," Zach said. "I agree. It's nice to have my mother back. Plus, I've always wanted you and my mom to get along. We've been through a lot, and if there's a chance to make things better, I want to try," Zach said. I'm hopeful but cautious. I'm not gonna lie, it's a big step for both of us, but I want to support you and have a healthier relationship with your mom. Just promise me you'll watch for any problems and support me if things go wrong," I said. "Of course, babe. You'll always be my #1 priority. I'll be careful and make sure we both feel okay. We'll take it slow and see how things go," Zach promised. We were careful but hopeful as we considered rebuilding our relationship with Joan. We knew that trust would take time to rebuild, but we were willing to give her a chance. It was a small step forward, and we remained hopeful about the future. We understood that change doesn't happen overnight, but we were willing to see if Joan's transformation was real. The next day, we relaxed at home for the weekend. The three of us enjoyed each other's company and had a good time. Joan mentioned that we hadn't celebrated my promotion yet. Zach jokingly agreed and suggested we plan the celebration for later. I was excited about the idea of celebrating with the new and improved Joan. Zach kindly offered to go to the grocery store to get the ingredients for dinner while I volunteered to take care of the drinks. But Joan insisted on making the drinks herself. "Oh, don't worry about the drinks, Brie. Let me take care of it. After all, we're celebrating your big promotion, and you shouldn't be working on a day like this," Joan said. "Thank you, but really, it's fine. Zach and I can handle it," I replied. "Yeah, Mom, she makes some really good drinks, so there's no need for you to go through any trouble," Zach added. "Brie, you're the guest of honor here, and I want to do something special for you. Please let me prepare the drinks. It's the least I can do," Joan insisted. "Mom, it's okay. Brie already said she can handle it, and she's excited to make the drinks. Let's just enjoy the celebration together," Zach interjected. "I know, but I really want to contribute. It's important to me, Brie. Please let me do this for you. It would mean a lot to me," Joan pleaded. "I appreciate your thoughtfulness, Joan, but I prefer to handle the drinks myself. It's something I enjoy doing, and it will make the celebration even more special for me," I explained. "I understand, but please, Brie, let me take this opportunity to show you how much I care. I want to make this night memorable for you," Joan insisted. "Okay, you can take care of it if you really want to," I finally relented. Joan's insistence made me feel uncomfortable and worried. My instincts told me that something wasn't right, but I couldn't figure out why. It was confusing because Joan had been treating me well and showing signs of change. Still, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling, maybe because of how she had treated me in the past. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I knew I had to trust my gut and be cautious around Joan. When Zach went to the store, I told Joan that I needed to finish some work and went to my room. I suddenly felt scared of Joan and locked myself in, needing some time alone to think. I realized I couldn't share my concerns with Zach. How could I explain that my gut was telling me something was wrong with Joan? He wouldn't believe me, and it would only upset him. Keeping our relationship safe became my priority, even if it meant keeping my fears to myself. While waiting for Zach's return, I couldn't shake off the fear inside me, but I decided to stay alert and ready for anything that might happen. I hoped and prayed that my instincts were wrong and that the celebration would go smoothly. As we sat at the table, I watched Joan and Zach closely. Zach was finishing preparing dinner while Joan began preparing the drinks. She had her back turned to me. Zach turned to chat with me, but my focus stayed on Joan. Something felt strange, and my gut told me to be alert. In a quick moment when Joan thought Zach and I were too involved in our conversation, I saw her take something from her pocket and add it to one of the drinks. My heart sank, and I got really worried. What was Joan doing? I carefully noted which cup she tampered with. Joan came over and placed all 3 cups on the table, purposely setting the cup she had tampered with in front of me. Instead of confronting her directly, I fought on my feet. You know what, babe? I think your drink is mixed better. Can we switch? I suggested. Oh, but I made the drinks all the same way. There's no need to switch, Joan quickly interjected. It's all right, Mom. Brie can be a little weird about some things. Let her have the drink she wants, Zach said. Thanks, babe. I just have this thing about how the drink looks, you know? I added. Are you sure, dear? I made this one especially for you, Joan insisted. It's all right. I just have a preference. I really appreciate your effort, though, I said. Mom, it's fine. Brie knows what she likes. Let's just enjoy the celebration and have a good time, Zach added. Well, if you're sure, Joan reluctantly agreed. Positive, I confirmed. I couldn't help but smirk, knowing that Joan's plan had failed. But things got tense as Joan started trembling and sweating a lot. She realized she couldn't serve me the drink she had tampered with. When Zach returned with the food, ready to take a sip, Joan's desperation reached a peak, and she knocked the cup out of his hands, shocking him. What the hell? Why'd you do that? Zach exclaimed. Tell him what you did with that drink, I demanded. Oh, I thought I saw a bug in his drink, that's all, Joan stammered. Don't even try to lie, Joan. I saw you slip something into the drink that was meant for me, I said firmly. Is that true, Mom? Did you really do that? Zach asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Zach, I just want you to have a better life. Why can't you see that? Joan cried. Hasn't my success been enough for you? You've always complained that I'm not successful enough, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. Well, being successful doesn't mean you're pretty or have a better personality, Joan retorted. That's enough? What you're really searching for is a spineless woman who you can use to control me, Zach said, his voice filled with anger. No, that's not true. I just want anyone but her for you, Joan insisted. I don't want anyone else. I'm glad I have Brie by my side. Get out of my house. Get out of my life. I'm never giving you another chance, Zach declared. Zach, don't do this to me, Joan pleaded. I can't believe you. You're pathetic. Get out of my sight, Zach said, his voice cold. Joan quietly packed her things and left. It felt like a heavy burden had been lifted. Zach looked at me with sadness and apologized for everything that had happened. I could tell he truly regretted ever giving his mom a chance. I told him he had no need to apologize. He was not wrong for believing that his mother had changed, especially because I myself believed in that change. We learned the importance of setting boundaries and standing up for what we believed in. Our love grew stronger, supported by respect and commitment. We no longer let Joan's toxic influence define us. Instead, we focused on nurturing our relationship and creating a life filled with happiness, trust, and genuine connection. Our journey showed us the power of love and forgiveness. We learned to choose our own path, free from toxic people. Together, we embrace a brighter future, grateful for the lessons we learned and the unbreakable bond we shared. So, if there's one thing I want to share through this story, it is to always trust your instincts, cherish those who stand by your side, and never be afraid to cut ties with toxic people, even if they are family. Once I had written the divorce papers, Packer thought quickly. Get out of my house, my husband said, sneering. Provocatively beside him, his mistress was dreamily looking around the house. Wow, all this high-end brand furniture. How lovely. It's a house that fits me perfectly. I felt a twinge at those words and reminded my husband, just so you know, I'm taking all my personal things with me on moving day. Okay then, my husband looked at me as if he was about to burst out laughing. Of course, if your stuff was left behind, it would just remind me of the miserable days we've had so far. Apparently, he still doesn't understand the true meaning of my words. Just watch. Make sure you don't regret it later. My name is Karen. I'm a 26-year-old interior coordinator. My husband Joseph is 31 and works in the construction industry. We met through our hobby of DIY and have been married for a quick 3 years. At first, we cared for each other, but now I feel grateful we didn't have children. The reason is that Joseph has become too self-indulgent. After coming home, he carelessly takes off his coat, eats the meal I've prepared while complaining, doesn't even clean up, and retreats to his room. Before marriage, we made various agreements, one of them being shared household chores. Joseph and I decided to share them equally, but now I'm taking on almost all the housework. I pointed out to Joseph that he should do his share of chores, but incredibly, he made this excuse. Housework is easy, so it's natural for women to do it. Men have to take responsibility for work, so I don't want to do all this work. He started to easily throw this rigid opinion at me, which he had never voiced before our marriage. The fact that I earned more than Joseph has also played a big part in him turning against me. By the time I reached Joseph's age, I was planning to be independent and should be able to increase my income even more. Perhaps sulking about that, Joseph put only the bare minimum of his earnings into the house without saving and spent it however he liked. He was so reckless with money that I warned him time and time again, but he stubbornly refused to change. My hard-earned money. How greedy can you be to still want more? Not content with just that, he exaggerated to his co-workers that his wife was an outrageous miser, winning their sympathy. It was Joseph's generosity with money and the perception of domestic unrest that attracted his affair partner Linda. She's 24 years old, working at Joseph's company as a temporary employee. There are a few young men at my husband's company, and even those a bit older are still considered young. That's probably why 31-year-old Joseph caught her eye. Gosh, Joseph, if I had a handsome husband like you, I'd take care of him forever. Believing her words, my husband quickly became infatuated with Linda. I noticed Joseph's infidelity about 6 months ago, just when the affair had begun. One day, an unknown woman called Joseph's mobile phone, and when I searched for her name on social media, I found Linda. Today's date with my future husband at a fancy restaurant. I'm so nervous since it's my first time, she posted such words along with several photos of a man recognizable as Joseph. I saved all of them and also retrieved their exchanges from Joseph's mobile phone. From the dates, conversations, and information about the places they visited, there was no doubt that he was cheating. When I found out about my husband's infidelity, I was neither angry nor sad. I just felt empty. I understand that getting lectured when coming home tired isn't comfortable, but all those things were necessary for our future. Maybe it was too harsh, but to have an affair just because you're fed up with family after only 3 years? I let out a heavy sigh. Certainly, I can't afford to be down and do nothing. I've been working hard, thinking that compromise was necessary between us. But I simply couldn't tolerate the cheating anymore. I decided to divorce him. I started looking for a lawyer to end my marriage with Joseph. 1 month later, on a Saturday, I decided to bring Joseph and Linda together for a discussion. Naturally, they were shocked when I contacted Linda. They probably never thought I would find out about the affair, but perhaps out of joy for the marriage, Linda seemed really thrilled. She neither apologized nor tried to justify the affair. Instead, she immediately said, "Karen, are you really okay with his unprecedented compensation? I'm so happy." I calmly replied to her, "That's right. Joseph and I decided before our marriage not to divide our assets." At that moment, Linda held hands with Joseph and celebrated. Yes, Joseph and I had talked beforehand about what would happen if we ever divorced. In exchange for not dividing the assets, the compensation I would receive was also small. I was working too, so I didn't mind that part. But what made me angry was the complete lack of remorse for the adultery. How wonderful to live in such a stylish house filled with high-end brands. The appliances are the latest too. It's just the perfect house for me. I felt a strange sensation at those words. As I handed over the divorce papers, I confirmed something with Joseph. Even during our marriage, there's no division of the things I bought. I'm taking all my personal belongings with me. You do understand that, right, Joseph? Seemingly not understanding what I meant, Joseph paused for a moment and then spoke. It's obvious your plain clothes and bags wouldn't suit young Linda anyway. I have to buy her better things. If I leave your belongings here, they'll just be a reminder of the painful days we had together. It seemed he misunderstood, thinking I was talking about personal belongings like clothing. It was easier to let him continue thinking that than to start a fight. Tomorrow the movers will take everything, so be prepared. The two of them were already ignoring what I was saying, looking around the house's interior. It seemed Joseph didn't understand the meaning of no division of property, but that's none of my concern. Take a good look while you can. Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow's move. The next morning, they came to see me off as if they were hurrying me to leave early. Ignoring them, I waited for the moving company's arrival. Then, right on time, a large truck arrived. The workers energetically called out to me, "Thank you for choosing us today. We have another truck waiting nearby, so please don't worry." Linda, with a clouded expression, hesitated as she approached me. "Do you have that many personal belongings?" I held back a laugh and barely managed to answer. "The house itself belongs to Joseph, but all the appliances and furniture are mine. That's why I said there will be no division of property, remember?" Hearing that, Joseph rushed to me, his face turning bright red. "All the furniture and appliances are mine. They've been in this house for 3 years. Just take your stuff and get out quickly." I had reached my limit and finally burst out laughing. I had a feeling, but he really didn't understand what no division of property meant. And just because it's been in the house for a few years, it's his? You must be joking. "Hey, you're not really planning to take everything, are you?" Perhaps panicked by my attitude, Joseph lowered his voice to check with me. Meanwhile, the movers were steadily continuing to transport the furniture. "Don't worry, the only memories of living with you I'll leave behind." Then Joseph, in a panic, ran to the study. I always kept copies of the receipts there, so he must have gone to check which pieces of furniture were being taken. The checking was in vain. There's not a single piece of Joseph's furniture or appliances in this house. Joseph inherited this house from his parents, who owned it as a rental property. Not wanting to spend money on his personal life, he had furnished it all with second-hand furniture and appliances. When we got married, Joseph disposed of all the furniture he had, so I bought all the furniture and appliances. Of course, all were the latest and luxurious, famous brand items. Being an interior coordinator by profession, I was quite particular about the design of the furniture and appliances. Moreover, after trial and error, I placed the upscale furniture in visually pleasing arrangements. I think it had an opulence that made it look far from a second-hand house, even if I say so myself. Linda couldn't help but be enchanted as she looked around the room. Meanwhile, Joseph came back with a pale face. By that time, the house was already being cleaned after the removal. Literally, not a speck of dust remained. Linda kept screaming at me, "This is terrible. I can't believe this is happening." Finally, a worker looked around the house and asked, concerned, "The house is empty now. Are you sure this is okay?" "There's no problem since I'm moving out. What I bought with my own money, please deliver it to the address where my parents are in the new house," I said. The workers jumped into the truck and drove off briskly. "Hey, I didn't hear about this. What are you going to do?" Linda was still angry, coming at me again. Just then, a car pulled up from behind and she jumped in alarm. "Wait, who's coming now? What are you plotting?" she demanded, looking utterly bewildered. "Karen, it's been a while. Is it true you're giving me the wallpaper?" A friend of mine emerged from the car. "That's right, the wallpaper too," I said. "It had been custom made by a designer I met through work, and I paid for it to be completely replaced, so even the wallpaper was my personal property. Since this type was reusable, a bit of maintenance and resizing would allow it to be used again without any problems." You're gonna peel off the wallpaper too?" Linda was staring at me in disbelief, but my friend just shrugged and began to peel off the wallpaper. "Please, can you at least leave that alone?" My husband pleaded with me, but I ignored him. "If you see my personal belongings I left behind, you'll be reminded of me, and that's unpleasant, right? That's why I decided to give it all to my friend," I said. Having said that himself, he couldn't correct it and was confused and panicked. Generally, if you replace all the wallpaper in the house, it costs at least $5,000. Since they have to buy new furniture as well, it's undoubtedly a painful expense for them. I had all the tasteful furniture and appliances removed without leaving a single piece, and even the wallpaper was peeled off. Now the house looks older than its actual age. To live a sweet life in a room that looked good before the contractors came in for the two of them who had such a dream, it must be an unbearable reality. They seemed to have no energy left to complain to me, and Joseph and Linda were dumbfounded. After seeing off my friend with a smile as she collected the wallpaper, I got in the car. "Well, this is goodbye. Farewell." I casually bid farewell to the two of them and left the empty house behind. Afterwards, I used the furniture and appliances in my new home, but I soon got sick of the fact that Joseph had used them. I called a friend who was a buyer to sell them. Fortunately, they were in very good condition, and I was able to sell them for a higher price than expected. What kind of furniture should I buy next? Where should I place them? As I was thinking about these things, I got a call from Joseph after a long time. Linda just won't stop going on about how you arrange the furniture. Come to the house once. I didn't want to meet them, and it troubled me a lot, but my interest as an interior coordinator won out. What kind of furniture had those two bought? What kind of interior design did they want? All right, I'll go just to hear what you have to say. I found myself agreeing. Really? Remember, you promised, Joseph exclaimed with apparent joy before hanging up. On the promised day, I arrived at their place and was shocked at what I saw. They hadn't even re-wallpapered, and as for the furniture and appliances, it was all obviously second-hand stuff gathered from used goods stores. It looked exactly like a cheap apartment where a student might live. A whole month had passed since we parted ways, and this was just too much. Wait, what is this? This is beyond an interior design problem. I was at a loss for words. Linda took this as an insult and exploded in anger. We gathered this stuff just to live for now. We'll replace it soon. Since you took everything, use your connections or whatever and make this a house we can brag about to our friends. She seemed to be very unhappy with a life surrounded by second-hand furniture and appliances. She was irritated throughout our conversation. Even asking for the budget, it wasn't enough for my fee. What's this? You're a talented coordinator, but you can't do this. You're useless, Linda said, facing me with indignation. No matter how skilled, any coordinator can't do much with such a limited budget. This is ridiculous and way beyond connections, I explained, feeling stumped. She seemed serious about having me arrange high-end brand furniture and appliances on such a tight budget. Linda, now entirely frustrated, finally began to explode in anger. This is ridiculous. Did you come here just to look down on me? If you don't like it, I'll leave, but if you want to furnish your home on that budget, you should at least polish your interior sense. You really are making fun of me, but just because you have a slightly fashionable job, don't get so overconfident. Hey, stop it. Joseph tried to calm Linda down with a weary look on his face. Joseph, say something to her, Linda demanded. Just stop it, both of you. Linda, please be quiet. I'm sorry for the noise. After everything, I had to marry Linda. But as you can see, she's angry all the time, and it's tough every day, Joseph said, his voice weary. Apparently, after I left, they had a big fight in the now empty house. Linda had already quit her job to get married and hadn't reported the marriage to her parents, so she had nowhere to go. Joseph confessed that he married Linda solely out of compromise so she would take care of the housework. But such a marriage was bound to fail, and thus he had given up so soon. Please, Karen, help me fix our relationship again, begged Joseph. I responded, clearly annoyed. What's this? Planning to cheat on me next? No, the thing with Linda was just temporary confusion. After you left, I realized that there's no one more wonderful than you. Karen, you're not serious, are you? I suddenly realized I had raised my voice. You're the one who told me to get out of this house, right? I divorced you just like you wanted. You can't possibly expect me to change my mind now. Please, Karen, don't call me by my first name so casually. This rundown house is your chosen castle with your affair partner. You two should get along together. Wait, Karen. Ignoring Joseph's pleas, I quickly left the house. It's not worth satisfying curiosity by looking into someone else's downfall. What a life lesson, I thought to myself. Later on, I heard that Joseph and Linda begged their parents to help with the cost of purchasing furniture and appliances, but they were apparently disowned by both sets of parents. No one would help with buying furniture and appliances, let alone forgive them for marrying after an affair. So they reluctantly continued to live in that second-hand house. I can't even muster any sympathy for them anymore. It's the result of their actions. As for me, I recently met a male interior designer through work. Lately, on weekends we've been going out together quite often. I've been cautious about dating men for a while, but maybe it's time to think about starting a new life. With those thoughts in mind, I'm off on another date today.